Hello, my name is Frank Christensen and I'm the coordinator of officials for IFAF in Europe. This is the fifth of 6 training tapes dealing with forward progress. Today we're looking specifically at situations where the sideline is involved. So we'll have a look at some plays where the runner either did or did not get out of bounds before he went down. And we'll have a look at some situations where progress either was or was not stopped before the runner went out of bounds. And we'll talk about mechanics of how to get this right and the philosophy behind it. But before we get to the game film, let's have a look to see what the rulebook and the MOFO have to say on this topic.
In the rulebook, forward progress is defined in Rule 292. Forward progress is a term indicating the end of advancement by a ball carrier or airborne pass receiver of either team and applies to the position of the ball when it becomes dead by rule. In 513, forward progress, it says the most forward point of the ball when declared dead between the end lines shall be the determining point in measuring distance gained or lost by either team during a down. Exceptions. First one is Rule 851, which of course we all know deals with safeties. And the second one, when an airborne pass receiver of either team completes a catch inbounds after an opponent has driven him backwards and the ball is declared dead at the spot of the catch, the forward progress is where the player received the ball. In the MOFO, we go to 5-7 dealing with marking spots. In normal play, forward progress usually only needs to be marked to a tolerance of 1 foot. Since the ball is just less than 1 foot long, this means there are only 3 positions that a ball can be in between any pair of yard lines. A. With the nose, the most forward point of the ball on the forward yard line. B. With the middle of the ball midway between the 2 yard lines. And C. With the tail, the rearmost point of the ball on the back yard line. Note that in this system, the ball is never positioned spanning a line. And finally, officials need only mark forward progress to the nearest one of these points, except A, when the line to gain or goal line is concerned, in which case more accuracy is necessary, and B, after change of possession, a start of a new series, in which case the dead ball spot should always be marked with the nose of the ball on the nearest yard mark. And the when in doubt principles number 17 says, if the ball carrier is being held by only one player, the ball is still alive. If held by 2 or more, forward progress is stopped. Now, let's have a look at some game film. In these first couple of examples, we'll see runners who are down inbounds before they slide out of bounds. So even though they end up out of bounds, I think if you freeze it right there, you can see, even though it's close to the sideline, the knee touches inbounds. It's not enough for first down, so correctly done by this wing to wind the clock. He's got really good out of bounds coverage and a good wind here, so very well done. It's also an indicator for the deep wing, where you may see this and say, okay, he's out of bounds, and then go into stopping the clock, which we shouldn't do. We should leave that decision to the short wing, because he sees this knee down, and if we end up with a wing winding the clock here and the deep wing who's stopping the clock, well, then we have confusion. So for deep guys, don't ever be the first one to kill the clock or to indicate any kind of clock status on these types of plays. Leave it to the official who is responsible for progress. And here, good call, progress stopped inbounds. This plays another example of a situation where the wing can make good use of his brain camera. and make sure that when the player goes down, that the elbow, as seen here, is inbounds before everybody slides out of bounds. So again, a good judgment by this wing to make this an inbounds play, and provided that it's not a first down, we keep the clock running. Here's one last example of a snapshot with your brain camera to make this judgment that the runner is actually in bounds, even though he ends up out of bounds. But right there, the knee is down, in bounds before he rolls out of bounds, so correctly done by this wing to rule it in bounds and let the clock keep running. We're now moving on to plays where the runner actually makes it out of bounds. And then this first one's very interesting, that his progress is, even though he's moving backwards and out of bounds, his progress is not stopped in bounds simply because there's no contact with the defender. So even though he has progress here or he controls the ball here at the 30, he goes out of bounds at the 29, but because the defender doesn't touch him, then anything he does is on his own. So the wing does a very good job of killing the play and getting the spot at the 29, where had the defender pushed him back, we would have had progress stopped inbounds and the clock should keep running. But here, and we'll see that in the next clips, but here completely correctly done by this wing. Now we get into plays where progress is stopped inbounds and the runner's then pushed backwards out of bounds. Now in this case, a first down is reached, so we should stop the clock anyway. I just have my doubts whether this wing actually was aware of that. So had the first down not been made, this would be a situation where progress is stopped right there at the -1. I also think this wing is probably a little too close to the action, and then he's pushed out right there. So if we disregard the first down, progress is stopped inbounds. The wing is a little close and runs the risk of injury here. But in any case, this progress here is stopped inbounds. This play is similar in many ways, and yet there are some significant differences. One is the runner is stopped inbounds and then pushed out of bounds. The next one is the wing almost gets into trouble. I think he should probably be moving already now. As soon as the ball is pitched right there, it's very likely that you're going to get pressure on the sideline. So right now, when the ball is in position 1 and they're sweeping to your side, feel free to move. Here you almost get into trouble, and it'd be better to be at this point to be back at the 20-yard line, looking up and having everybody in front of you. But the difference to the last one, this one is done correctly. So progress is stopped inbounds right there with your brain camera. Do that snapshot, and then he's moved backwards, and this is correctly ruled as an inbounds play. This play is a good illustration of how there are two aspects to this. One is the progress spot, obviously. The other one is the clock status. Here, the runner is stopped on the 40 and then pushed back. But this wing does a really good job of out-of-bounds coverage and a really good job of the progress. We get it all the way up to the 40. The only thing missing is the clock status. And the first down is not involved. So if we have progress here at the 40 and he's then pushed back, then also the clock should be running because we have progress stopped inbounds. So just remember that there are two aspects to this, the progress spot and the clock status. This play illustrates another point to this, is that he's contacted there, and then he moves out of bounds pretty much at a 90-degree angle to the sideline. And when that happens, if he's 90 degrees to the sideline, then progress is stopped in bounds. If he's moving parallel to the goal line, then he's not moving forward, which means progress is stopped. So if we have any doubts here, we're going to let the clock run because it's not a first down, and we're going to rule progress stopped in bounds. This last play, the contact by the defender is going to happen very close to the sideline, so it can be tough to see if progress is actually stopped on the sideline. Notice here also that the line of scrimmage, or the line to gain rather, is the B5, just so that we know where that is. And another illustration that as a wing, you really need to know where that line to gain is. So here we're short of the line to gain, and if you'll notice the angle the defender is coming with when the contact is made, there's a very high probability that the contact, the push, will make the defender go backwards in bounds. So here he catches the ball, he's contacted inbounds, and just because the defender is moving, I guess that would be from south to north, at least at some degree, then when you push the offensive player, he's most likely going to go backwards, meaning that we have progress stopped inbounds, meaning that we have a running clock, or should have a running clock here. And that was the training tape. I hope it made sense, and I hope you found something you can use on the field.